Assalamualaikum, Prof. Today, me and my team will be presenting our group research project titled The Effect of Facial Masks on Nonverbal Communication During the COVID-19 Pandemic. As we all know, face masks become a vital part of our life during the pandemic. But while they help keep us safe, they also change the way we interact with each other, especially non-verbally. This study explores how facial masks impacted non-verbal communication, how people responded to those challenges, and what strategies they use to adapt. Now we focus on the group of adults in the Klang Valley and use a quantitative approach to better understand their experience. Throughout this presentation, I will walk you through the key findings, what they mean, and why this topic still matters today, even in post-pandemic world. Thank you. So we move to my friend.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. As an introduction, I would like to begin by highlighting the powerful impact of COVID-19 pandemics. During that period, face masks not only became essential for health, but they also created barriers in how we communicate, especially non-verbally. Since over 65% of human communication is nonverbal, covering half the face made it harder to read emotions and understand speech clearly. This had a major impact in places where personal interaction is key, like hospitals, schools, and retail. Although mask wearing is not new, seen in past outbreaks like SARS, the communication challenges during COVID-19 were more noticeable and widespread. Our research looks at how masks affected nonverbal communications and what strategies people use to adapt. By understanding these changes, we gain insights not only into communication but also into human resilience and connections. So, regarding to problem statement, communication is a key part of interactions, and nonverbal cues like facial expressions play a huge role in showing emotions and building social interactions. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, face masks, though essential for safety, disrupted these natural cues. Despite how common these issues are, there is still limited research on how people adapted. So our studies aim to explore not only the problems caused by masks, but also how individuals adjusted their communications to stay connected. So to guide our study, we focus on three key research questions. The first one, what are the effects of wearing facial masks on nonverbal communication during the COVID-19 pandemic? And the second one, why does the reduction of facial visibility influence how effectively people communicate? And the third is that how did individuals adapt their nonverbal cues to overcome the limitation caused by facial masks? And all these questions is being shaped in the directions and to focus on our research. So pertaining to the research objective, based on our research questions, we outline three main objectives. The first one is that to examine how facial masks affected nonverbal communications. And the second is to identify why mask wearing reduced the effectiveness of those nonverbal cues. And the last one is to explore the strategies people use to adapt and maintain effective communication during the pandemic. So these all objectives help us to stay focused on the core issues throughout our study. And for the scope of our study, it focused on adults aged 18 and above living in the Klang Valley region of Malaysia, which includes areas like KL, PJ, Shah Alam, and Subang. These locations were chosen due to their dense populations and strict mask mandates during the pandemic. We gathered data from individuals across various sectors, including education, healthcare, retail, and the general public, who regularly interacted while wearing masks. The study looks specifically at how key nonverbal cues such as face expressions, eye contact, and gestures, and also tone of voice were affected, and how people learn to cope and adapt over time. So, for the part of significance of this study, it holds value in several important areas. For the society, it raised awareness on how crucial nonverbal communication is in our daily life, and it highlights the human ability to adapt under pressure, especially during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. It encouraged greater empathy and understanding. For organizations, particularly in healthcare, education, and retail, this research helps to identify communication challenges caused by mask wearing. The insight can be used to improve staff training and to ensure clear, effective directions even when facial expressions are limited. And for the researchers, this study contributes to the growing field of communications, offering a foundation for future studies on human behavior during crisis. It also supports theories like expectancy variation theory and explores communication resilience under physical barriers. And lastly, from a cultural perspective, this study opens the door for comparing how people from different backgrounds interpret and adapt nonverbal communications and allowing for deeper cross-cultural understanding. So that's all for the for my introductions. So I let my friends to continue for the sessions.
Hi, hello everyone. So for this chapter 2, I will explain the literature review for our study. This chapter discusses past research and theories related to nonverbal communication, especially during COVID-19 pandemic when wearing face masks affected how we communicate. So let's go through the key point one by one. First, we go to the definition of the nonverbal communication. So what we understand about the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communications means sending messages without words. So this includes like facial expression, gestures, eye contact, body posture, tone of voice, and how close we stand to others. Nonverbal theory says that 93% of communication is come from nonverbal communication, and only 7% is actual words. Even though this has been debated, it shows how important nonverbal cues are. Nonverbal communication helps us express emotions, control conversations, give feedback, and show the social rules, especially when talking is difficult, like during pandemic. Next, we move to the facial expression. Facial expression shows the emotions very clearly. So like mine and Faison identified 6 universal facial expressions, such as happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. But with face mask, part of face like mouth and cheeks are covered. Carbon 2020 found that 50% less accurate in organizing emotions with masked faces. This also made it harder to understand others, especially for those who rely on lip reading. So now let's talk about eye behavior. With masks hiding the lower faces, people focus more on the eye contact. This area of study is called oculesics. Eye contact, eyebrow, eye direction become more important to show emotions like empathy and confusion. But different cultures interpret eye contact differently. For example, in some Asian cultures, too much eye contact can feel rude, so this could cause misunderstandings. So we move to the 2.4, which is gestures. So what is gestures? Gestures is the movement that we use to support in what we say. During the pandemic, people use more hand signals, head nods, and body language because facial expressions were harder to see. Things like thumbs up or placing a hand over the heart become more common. So these gestures help make message more clearer when the face was covered. Okay, next is about vocal tone and paralanguage. Paralanguages include how we say things such as tone, pitch, volumes, and pauses. Wearing a mask makes speech harder to hear, so people had to speak louder, pronounce words more clearly, and change their tone to show emotion. Toscano 2021 found that it was 20% to 30% harder to understand people who wearing the mask, especially in the noisy places. So we're now on 2.6, proxemics and personal space. Proxemics is the study of how space affects communication. Edward T. Hall identified zones like personal, social, and public space. During COVID-19, social distancing pushes people further apart, making it harder to catch subtle, nonverbal cues. Many people felt more distant and formal during conversation, which affected emotional connection. For a theoretical framework, expectancy violation theory (EVT). This theory by Judy Bergun says people have expectation for how others behave. When someone behaves differently, it surprises us and forces us to adjust. Wearing masks is the example of this. We expect to see facial expressions of people, but the mask blocked that. So people adapted by using more gestures and changed their voice to make the communication effective. We move to the 2.8, cultural dimension. Nonverbal communication is understood differently across the cultures. Hotspot theory explains that high context cultures like Malaysia depends more on nonverbal cues. Wearing masks in high context cultures can cause more serious misunderstandings because subtle cues like tone and facial expressions are very important. In a research gap, many studies have looked at how much masks affects communication in hospitals and schools. But not many have explored how the general public, especially in Malaysia, adapted non-verbal communication during pandemic. Most research focused on speech clarity and emotional expression, gestures, or cultural differences. So this study aims to fill that gap by looking how Malaysians adapted and experienced during non-verbal challenges in COVID-19. In conclusion, this chapter shows how deeply non-verbal communication affected by mask wearing. By reviewing past studies and theories, we can be better understand the need for adaptation and how people adjusted their communication style in difficult situations.
So, Assalamualaikum. So, in this chapter, I will be presenting on the research methodology used to study the impact of the facial mask on non-verbal communication during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, the aim was to conduct a systematic, valid, and replicable study. So, the first one will be the research paradigm. This study adopts a quantitative approach under the positive paradigm. So, it's assuming that the reality can be objectively be measured. So, the data that was gathered through the structured survey to statistically analyze how mask wearing affected non-verbal communication. And then the next one will be the selection of the respondent. So our target the population is included the Malaysian adult aged 18 and above who regularly wore masks during the pandemic. So the participant came from the three occupational group, which is the healthcare workers, educators and students, and the retail of customer service personnel. So there's a purposely sampling technique ensured the relevant individual were chosen. So the resulting in 65 completed survey. And then the next one will be the research instrument. So the data collected was using the structured online questionnaire via the Google form. So the survey was divided into 5 sections covering the demographic, awareness of nonverbal cues, the effect of mask wearing on communication, adaptive strategies used, and the perception of the communication effectiveness. And the both closed-ended and a few open-ended questions were included to capture the quantitative data and qualitative insight. So proceed to the next one is the validity and reliability. So to ensure the questionnaires validity, it was reviewed by the communication expert and refined based on their feedback. A pilot test was tested to the 10 respondents and confirmed the reliability with Cronbach alpha scores above the acceptable threshold. Okay, and then for the next one, the data collection procedure. The survey was conducted online over 1 week in June 2025. The link was shared through the WhatsApp group and emails. The introductory section was informed participants about the study purpose, anonymity, and consent with participation being voluntary. Okay, for the next one will be the building rapport. To encourage the participant, the questionnaire was distributed personally through the trusted contact using friendly, which is there is no pressuring communication to build trust and emphasize the study's important. So the timeline for this research activity spanned from early of June to the late of June 2025, starting with the questionnaire design, followed by the pilot testing, data collection, cleaning, analyze, and finally the report writing. For the data analysis, response exported from the Google Sheets to SPSS analysis included descriptive statistic, cross-tabulation to explore the relationship between the variable and thematic coding for the qualitative respondent. The visual tools like bar and pie chart help present findings clearly. And then the last one will be the ethical consideration. The ethical standards were strictly followed. The participation was voluntary, with informed consent obtained by the participant. Okay, so all data was anonymized and kept confidential, used solely for the academic purpose. So the research protocol received approval from the university's ethics committee.
Hi, my name is Razrina. So I'm going to present about the funding and discussion. So this chapter presents about the funding of the study based on the quantitative data collected from 65 respondents. This include analysis of demographical, awareness of nonverbal communication, challenge posed by facial masks, adaptive strategy employed, and their relation to the theoretical framework. The data is also visualized through chart and discussed in line with previous studies to provide deeper insight and interpretation. As for the demographic profile of the respondent, we have 65 respondents that respond to our questionnaire. So the breakdown: female 40 respondents, male 25 respondents, which contribute about 38.5% from the chart. The age group we can see here is between 18 to 25 years old, 26 to 35 years old, and 36 and above. The occupational background we study here, we have student, educator, healthcare workers, retail workers, and others, which contribute about 6.2%. So this mass frequency using daily, like working hours and school time, occasionally is during a public event, which is about 10% contribution. This demographic indicates a strong representation from key sectors impacted by mask wearing, especially education and healthcare. How we create the awareness of nonverbal communication. Respondents were asked about their awareness and understanding of nonverbal communication before and during the pandemic. So the percentage here is 88% agrees that nonverbal cues are essential to effective communication, whereas 72% stated that their awareness of body language, gesture, and eye contact increased during mask wearing. The balance of 65% indicate that they had previously taken nonverbal cues for granted before the pandemic. This finding aligned with research by Hadley et al. 2020, suggesting that communicative awareness is heightened when studied visual cues. For example, like facial expression that are restricted. We move on to the analysis by demographic group. By gender, we have female respondent reported high use of eye contact, 92%, and gesture, 78%, then males, and 61% respectively. Women also noted that more emotional impact, such as feeling disconnected or not being understood. By occupation, we can see healthcare workers use more eye contact tone variation to maintain patient rapport. Educator reported greater reliance on gesture and vocal clarity to engage with students. Retail staff adapted through repeated phrases and customer body language observation. By age, younger respondents, years about 18 to 25 years old, prefer expressive gesture, while older groups lean toward voice control and tone emphasis. This analysis support Gordon Meadow 2003 and Burgund 2016, who emphasize how different groups adjust communication based on context and necessity. We move on to the analysis by demographic group. By gender, we have female respondent reported high use of eye contact, 92%, and gesture, 78%, then males, and 61% respectively. Women also noted that more emotional impact, such as feeling disconnected or not being understood. By occupation, we can see healthcare workers use more eye contact tone variation to maintain patient rapport. Educator reported greater reliance on gesture and vocal clarity to engage with students. Retail staff adapted through repeated phrases and customer body language observation. By age, younger respondents, years about 18 to 25 years old, prefer expressive gesture, while older groups lean toward voice control and tone emphasis. This analysis support Gordon Meadow 2003 and Burgoon 2016, who emphasize how different groups adjust communication based on context and necessity. The discussion through the lens of EVT, which is expectancy violation theory by Burgoon 1993, provide a strong framework for interpreting the finding. The use of facial masks created violation of normal communication expectation, particularly in terms of visual facial feedback. According to EVT, individuals adapt with their expectation are violated. This study participants did exactly that. They increased their reliance on other channels. Example, gesture voice to compensate. The majority of respondents experienced initial discomfort, but later they adapted and become more expressive with their eyes and body movement. This adaptation reduced communication anxiety and improved their overall effectiveness. Thus, the finding confirm EVT core assertion communication behavior evolves in response to violation, especially in maintaining connection, is socially necessary. The case highlight some open-ended response stood out and gave rich insight into real-world adoption. We have two respondents, educators, nurses, and retail workers. From the educator, she said, at first, I didn't know how to tell if my students were confused or following. I started using exaggerated tone and more gesture. From the nurse, patient couldn't see me smile, so I practiced smiling with my voice. I even used more upward intonation to sound positive. This is from the retail worker. Working at the cashier, I had to nod more often and really use my hand so people know I'm acknowledging them. This response reflects genuine cognitive and emotional adjustment in communication further, emphasizing the resilience of human interaction even under physical limitation.
Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be presenting Chapter 5, Conclusion, Implication, Limitations and Recommendation from my study on nonverbal communication under mask-wearing constraints during the COVID-19 pandemic. This chapter brings everything together, summarizing the key findings, drawing a conclusion, and offering insights for both practice and future research. The summary of the key findings is that the study showed that wearing masks had a strong impact on communications. 91% of respondents had difficulty recognizing emotions. 78% found speech clarity was affected. 73% felt less expressive overall. To adapt, people relied more on eye contact. For example, 84%, hand gestures 71%, and clearer speech. This shift highlights how masks disrupted traditional cues, but also how people adjusted their behavior to maintain communication. For the conclusion and research objective, the finding addresses all three research questions. First, facial masks limit expressive ability, leading to confusion and reduce emotional connections, especially in sensitive settings like schools and hospitals. Second, the obscuring of key facial features increased reliance on tone and eye contact, which not everyone could interpret effectively. Finally, people adapted by using exaggerated nonverbal cues, supporting Burgoon's expectancy violation theory, which explains how behavior changes when expectations are disrupted. For the implication, the results have practical implication. In education, teachers should use more dynamic gestures, and vocal variety. In healthcare, professionals must express empathy through tone and posture. In retail, staff can improve customer interaction using body language. For HR departments, should include non-verbal training. And for the public health messages, should guide people on how to communicate better while wearing masks. And the limitation and recommendation, like all research, this study has its limitation. It was limited to the Klang Valley, had a small sample size, and relied on self-reported data. Also, it used on quantitative methods. For future research should expand geographically, include qualitative interviews, and even explore long-term and cross-cultural effects of mass communication. For final remarks, in conclusion, while masks challenge how we connect, they also reveal our adaptability. Whether through a nurse's compassionate eyes or a teacher's expressive gesture, people found ways to stay connected. This study not only adds to communication research, but reminds us of the power of human resilience in times of crisis. And thank you for watching.
Okay, sir, that's all from us. So for me, to conclude, our research shows that facial masks did more than just cover mouths. They disrupted facial expression, emotional clarity, and even connection between people. But despite these barriers, individuals found ways to adapt through eye contact, gesture, tone of voice, and body language. This reminds us how powerful and flexible human communication really is, even under pressure. We hope our findings can be used to improve communication strategies in healthcare, education, and other industries, especially in situations that may require face covering in the future. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your question and feedback. Thank you, Prof.